All right, so I am here today with Kellita Maloof, the showgirl shaman. We were originally going to do an Instagram live, but her account was deleted, which is something that happens pretty often for burlesque dancers, for sex positive pages. So I'm very interested to hear more about this from Kellita. Let me just start off with reading her bio. So Kellita Maloof is a performing and teaching artist and conscious burlesque facilitator. She works at the intersection where burlesque dance meets depth psychology, meets attachment theory, meets individuation, meets autoimmune recovery, meets spirituality. All things that I love to spend time on. For over 20 years, she's performed, designed, and curated shows and events all over the world, from San Francisco to New Orleans, Hollywood to Montreal, and Paris to Tokyo, and now wherever Zoom will take her. And Kellita, today I am calling you from Mazunte, Oaxaca, on the Pacific coast of Mexico. Beautiful, it's humid. I can't put my hair down, but
beautiful hair you have, beautiful, Deanna.
Thank you. Highlights in Kellita's career include founding the award-winning troupe of Hot Pink Feathers, being the queen of the Carnival in San Francisco 2008, being featured in Margaret show's Sensuous women's show, and being a 5-time finalist at the Burlesque Hall of Fame. Kellita helps kind, smart, soulful, highly sensitive coaches, therapists, artists, and healers who've been over-editing, over-managing, and over-giving, and are attracted to dance theater and performance. She helps them trust themselves and express themselves with confidence, presence, and radiance. Kellita integrates her work over a decade of practice in transformative modalities, including EFT, Marin-style NLP, systemic constellations, interpersonal neurobiology, and fourfold way, to name a few. Kellita's mission is to support women in dusting off the fountain of self-love that was hiding right in the center of their very own shimmy. You can find more of Kellita on her website, showgirlawakening.com. So, Kellita, I want to just check in with you. Where are you right now, given that your Instagram was deleted yesterday?
Oh my gosh, I thought you meant location. Well, I'm at the Feathers Nest in San Francisco, California. And so, yes, my Instagram account was deleted last night. Deanna, at first, I really didn't know if it was Instagram taking it down. I thought at first that it was copyright issues. It turns out actually it was scammers who looked very, yes, this was actually it. So I got a notice that looked very believable. I'm actually pretty good about spotting when, like, oh, that doesn't look right. I'm not going to answer that. So it looked like it was from Facebook or Meta, saying that about copyright infringement and some other issue. So I followed through on the form, and through what I entered in the form, my account was taken. And I know because later on in the evening, I was written through WhatsApp from the people who own right now have my account hostage. So, I mean, the truth is, I want to lift up that both of these ways that we, meaning anyone who uses corporate social media, any one of us, whether you're an artist who, I have lots of colleagues in burlesque who've had their accounts taken down, and I thought at first that was the issue, but no, it was not. But whichever avenue it comes from, we are not sovereign in that place. Instagram, I can't figure out yet how to have someone at Instagram. I don't know where to file this. There's no obvious place. I don't think they care about the small artist entrepreneur who has this happen. They're not set up for that. I'm going to continue to pursue that, and I hope that Instagram can help me get it back, but I don't know. And this is whether it's from the side of someone hacking in, and I'm sure they want money. but there's no guarantee that they even can give my account back or will. And so I'm not going to engage with them. I'm going to try, I'm not going to write back to, I don't even want to name the language or the country. I can tell from the picture that they told me, but I don't want that to reflect on that country. But it's, you know, somebody across the world is feeling the pinch. They're feeling desperate. You know, I don't even want to vilify them. This is a systemic issue. We are not in control of our own voices, the way that we share ourselves with the world, our points of view, our life missions, the beautiful things that we're doing. And we're also not conditioned, especially women, especially helper women, highly sensitive, caring helper women, which is me and the people that I work with. We're so conditioned. I want to bring it to money, which I know is a hot topic for you. And I love that we share so many topics of interest, and I don't talk about money that much. And I'm so glad that you invited me here on Money Talks, because the way that I see very, very closely tied how I share my voice in the world and feel free to, and actually have, can have a solid, sovereign platform that is not at risk of being taken away either by corporate America or by some desperate person somewhere, yeah, who wants to take hostage and bribe me for something. Money is a big way that we have power in the world. And people like me and the people that I work with also in the healing arts, we're conditioned to stay small and to be just so handicapped in the arena of money. We can talk about that. And I'm sure you have great questions around that. But I just want to name this all feels, I have a very spiritualic and all encompassing meta way where I see the connections between everything. And right now I feel the connection and of the pinch of having my voice squashed. And my work is so much about finding my voice and finding the safety to share it, however it is, through a lovingly self-created dance act, to express myself in that way, whether it's to support other women in expressing themselves in that way, or whether it's saying, here is my offer to the world. This is my expertise. This is what I've trained in. This is my love gift to the world. And we're not living on the barter system. Right now, we're primarily using currency rather than other forms. There are other ways to do living, but right now, it'd be really tricky to do bartering without a whole systemic change. So while we're still using currency and money, we need to relate to it, especially people like me, in a different way, in a more life-giving, honest, not over-sacrificing and over-giving, got a lot of thoughts about that way. And we need to help people who don't have it have more. We need more equity. We need such a systemic overhaul. So I'm going to let you pause.
No, and it's true. We need such a systemic overhaul. That's a great point to pause on. And as you were speaking, I was remembering, have you heard of Virginia Woolf? She wrote A Room of One's Own.
Yes.
She wrote this over 100 years ago. And I remember her talking about, like, when I don't know if it's true or not, but like the protagonist in the book got a annual stipend of 500 pounds, which is, I think, like 6 figures now. Like, I don't know
if you
exactly
translate it. Okay.
Like, it was generous. It was plenty for her to then be able to focus on her work. Wow. And she talked about how important it was for a woman to have that financial independence. Is that possible for everyone? I don't know. I mean, and yet there's a way that when people talk about universal income, which I think is something that's being really seriously contemplated in other countries outside of the US, that just changes us. You know, like, life doesn't have to be as competitive And as difficult as it is right now, I think of, and changes can sometimes happen so slowly, but like think of like child labor laws and then adult labor laws, and like those things, it took time, but then they came into being, and like we can think of better ways to do life than we are right now. So
We
yeah.
can. I do want to name one thing about, I'm a little suspect of the universal, what is it? The term.
Universal income.
Yes, I am. If it's being managed by the current governments that we have. Yeah. If it starts to get tied into, if all our individual choices are all tracked, our political leanings, all the choices we make with our money, with our bodies, how we show up in the world, if it's a government agency that's deciding you get your universal income if you can tick these behavioral boxes, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't think it's a, no. Yeah. I mean, what kind of track record for does the most governments you could point to? I think it's the minority in the world that you could point to and say, that's a really honest government who truly has the best interest of its citizens. And we can see it through the track record with how they treat us and how honest they are about, I mean, we could go down a lot of roads there, but
there's so many rabbit holes that are available.
So many to go on, but
and for universal income, I don't know enough about it to be able to critique it. I don't know that it's tied to behaviors. I don't know what countries are really thinking about doing it. I do know that it's having like consistent home and shelter definitely helps people a lot. And yeah, so that's an interesting rabbit hole that maybe I'll get into at some point later on.
I think it's just smaller circles of people for many centuries. Humans lived in smaller groups. Somewhere around 100 people was a working unit of people, and there were ways that folks were taken care of. Yeah, not everyone was earning money. Some people were nurturing people, or there were elders, and there were people got taken care of because there was a sense of community.
Yeah, and how do we get back into that now? Like I'm staying at a hospital right now, and there's a couple here who's traveling all over Latin America, and they are artists, they're performers, they make jewelry, they paint, and they do it all like in exchange. Like it's very much the barter system, and it's beautiful to see, right? There's so many different ways of doing life.
Yes.
And I think your story from it, I remember reading about your story, like that 9-part series that you shared about all of the things that you've gone through to get to where you are today. It really, really deeply touched me. So again, I really invite people to follow your work more on the Showgirl Awakening on your website. And
at this point, you have to come to the website because that 9-part story is erased now. It was on Instagram. Yeah.
Can you bring it back to your website?
It's actually the new website. That story is there. Yeah, it is on the biography page. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into the money section of this. The
Yes.
first question that I have is, when did you start to understand what money was about? What is maybe your earliest money memory, or like point where you're like, this is actually how money works in the system? Is there like a story or a memory that you remember about that?
Such a good question. I actually, my memory is more centered around what I was not taught about money. I just remember my dad, this was probably a little later, not the very first memory, but it really stands out. He was really adamant, do not get into credit card debt, do not use, but he didn't talk about what to do. It was more of beware of that, don't do that, but there wasn't a teaching about how to relate to it or how to spend it or no. So it was a little more, there was a mystery and a caution without a practical clarity of this is a tool. This is how, these are ways you can get it. This is all that it can do for you. This is how you can grow it. This, you know, there was no holistic education around it. I just knew, this is interesting. I think I was about probably 11 or 12, maybe 13. And ooh, I better still have this ring. I don't know where it is right now. I lose it and then I find it again, but I've had it ever since I was a small child. I knew I lived in an artisan town, a small town with about 1,000 people and lots of artists of all kinds. And I found a ring that I really loved. It was silver. It had the moon. It had a garnet. I would show it to you if I had it on hand. And I loved it so much. And, you know, the only income I had was from babysitting and maybe a little tiny allowance. And I asked if I could put it on layaway, and I did. I think that ring was $50 then. 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. So that was a lot of money. A lot of money. But I wanted that. I wanted that. So and that, yeah, I don't know, that my relationship to money has been where, I mean, mostly actually, that's not very representative of, I have not spent most of the money in my life on objects. That was a special object to me. Most of my money has gone towards experience. And I include education in that. Lots and lots and lots of education. Many, many years of education after traditional university. Travel and education and experience has been a transformative experience. I don't have many things, but I have a lot of experience. That's what I value. If you look at how someone spends their money, that's what they value.
Their time and their money, right? You want to know someone's values. It's like, how are they spending their money? How are they spending their time? And it's interesting. So you shared that your dad told you to not use credit, nothing on credit. And then one of the first stories that you actually have is about putting things on credit. So I don't know if you've noticed that before.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that. You were using credit. And in a way that, I mean, were you being charged interest on having this ring on layaway? I don't think so.
Layaway doesn't happen anymore. I haven't heard of it in a long time, but it was very well known at that time. And no, I don't think there was any extra. It was just, I had to do it within a certain amount of time. You know, we had to stay in contact, but yeah.
That's awesome though. That's a pretty intrepid 13-year-old to be like, this is what I want and this is how I'm going to do it.
I even remember at that same age, I would take myself out to dinner alone. Isn't that interesting? As a little child, and I would eat, you know, there was this one beautiful little restaurant, I think it was called The Well, and it literally was inside of, we lived on well water because it was sort of in the country, and they made this beautiful fettuccine Alfredo. This was not something we had at home. So I took myself out to dinner, and so I knew what I wanted.
And I hope you're treating yourself just as well today as you were when you were 13. I mean, sometimes you have to go all the way around to come back to where you started.
No, I often do.
Yeah, no, it took me, I was probably in my late 20s when I was like, oh, I got to go out for a nice dinner on my own, you know, for no special occasion other than it being Wednesday and I'm hungry, you know. Well, so this next question, growing up, was there anything that you thought was normal about money? And then later on you realized that it actually wasn't the case, that it was something that was very specific to your family or your community?
Ooh, ask that once more, because I almost have an answer, but you asking again.
Yeah, when you were younger, like, were there any things that you learned about money, stories that you internalized, things that you thought were like, this is the way things are done? And then as you got older, you realized, actually, that's the way things were done in my family or in my community.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I don't know if this is so much of money. This is a little more of how to relate to other people, but there is a money aspect. We had a very open door. I don't know, maybe this is a bit of a stretch. We had a very open door policy where people could, my dad was a pastor, so he worked in a church, and he chose to have our home be the extension of that. So he didn't finish his work and then come home and have a private family life. The door was literally open to anyone he came in contact with, not just a member of the church, but for example, like we literally did set an extra table, an extra place at the table,
Wow.
and it was often filled, maybe doubly. So it was this understood between my parents that if they ran into anyone in need of food or nurture or care or even needed to stay somewhere, they would come. They would come. And so in that way, time and resource and energy was free for other people through not just him, but all of us. So we were all called into a kind of service, which that's just why I say, like, it's partially related to money and it's partially related. It's resource. Our resources were
Generosity.
yes, yes, and there's so much beautiful about that. I love so much about that, and it I didn't have a sense of I had any private life. And I also had the sense, not knowing it, it was very confusing, that I was working. It was like I was drafted into a job that didn't have any edges. So I didn't have privacy, and there weren't edges to this work that we were all doing. It was 24/7, 365 days a year, which was just confusing. Like, is this person here? Is this my sister? Am I their servant? How do I relate to this? So it's interesting because now that I work for myself, one of the challenges is when I'm working with someone, how much of my inclination is to give the world. And I love that generosity, but it has also left me with my own private life and my resources, including money, being depleted or small, because I learned, and I think we can't separate out like money, values, time, resources. They're all just a big mush together. And I learned, and I didn't know that there was another way, and I'm still learning that there might be another way, that I actually can have privacy and my own experience and a money that's set aside for my own security, because my inclination is to give it all away, give all my time away, give all my money away. That got
And
deeply embedded for me. I'm still unlearning it.
And it can feel really confusing, because there is this kind of utopian idea of like, if I give it all, then my community will care for me. And yet we don't live in a society that's established that way, that's set up that way. We live in an overculture that is very extractive. If you give, they will pay. And I love that you now work on individuation, right? Because part of individuation from my own experience has been learning to say, like even right now, right? I'm on vacation and I'm doing this Instagram live, and I love doing this Instagram live, right? And there's very much there's this. I've been having this conversation. I've been an entrepreneur for 8 months, and I've been having this conversation of, do I work when I'm on vacation? And it's like, well, do I rest when I'm at work? How can I bring all of my life to all of my life, right? Like, who says that this is now vacation time, you must not do anything afterwards? And there's proof in that. And I think what I prefer is listening to myself. What I prefer insane, because I was doing some emails yesterday, and then I was like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do these emails anymore. And then I stopped. And then I'm going through my day, and it's like, I'm bored. What's going on with work? What's going on with the people that I care about? And it's just that meandering back and forth that, I mean, when I hear your story about, so one of my first experience of generosity was actually, I grew up on the border with Mexico and the US. And we often had people from in the US, like or Latin Americans in the US were deported and sent to our town, Mexicali. So you often would
Wow.
see people walking around the street. They were recently deported, and they were just like, they were carrying everything they owned, which was like their clothes and maybe a backpack. They
Yeah.
were hungry, they were scared, they were lost. And my grandmother always had extra clothes because she had 6 children. And they were always like, their clothes they were outgrowing them, they were getting ripped, whatever. She always had extra clothes, and she always had extra food. Because if you're feeding 6 kids, you can feed another kid. Like, it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
rice and beans, there's enough for everyone. And I remember I must have been like 8 years old, going to the front of the house, giving someone pants, giving someone a shirt, and also giving them food. And at the same time, though, because it was just my grandma and I at the house, the door was locked, the gate was locked, and I remember it was kind of like, yes, we want to help you, and yes, we also don't want you to come inside the house because we don't know who you are. It was this very,
Yeah.
because at the same time, I mean, I was 8 years old, she was in her mid-60s. It's kind of like, do we want
Yeah.
to let everyone in, and at the same time we want to help you where we can. So I loved that. And it wasn't like my grandmother was teaching me anything about generosity or self-care or self-protection. She was just doing, and as
Yeah.
children, that's how we learn. We just watch people do.
Yep.
And how now are you making sure that you have a separation between work life and
I'm
private
still
life?
learning it. I'm still learning it. I've come a long way, but no, I'm a what is that? I'm a work in progress.
Wow. So I wonder, that 13-year-old who put that ring on layaway, the one who took herself out to dinner, how did she separate between working life
Yeah.
and rest?
Yeah.
She's got something to tell you.
I know. No, I know. I do. I do. And it might have even been a little younger than 13, actually.
Mm.
Because it was just about at 13 that some of that self-possession had a level of self-possession and confidence that got really shaken by a sexual trauma.
Mm.
And and that, but I do look back to my little self for, yeah, she did until a point really have quite a sense of herself. And um mhm. The thing you said when you were asking the question about do I work when I'm on vacation, and then you ultimately said I do what feels good. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, the sometimes the artificial line can feel controlling, but I'm gonna point my finger at me, and this is rather fresh. This is so fresh. I'm right in the middle of it right now. I I am in the middle of offering a series of free workshops and events. I'm literally in the middle of
Mhm.
it, about a 10-day period. And I didn't realize how much time and energy to promote it, to deliver it. It's about 15 and a half teaching hours over the week.
Okay.
And then
Wow.
it's all the promotions and the preparation and the follow-up and it's it's um it's really a lot. And I chose to do it all for free. And I do actually think it is an instance of overgiving. It's
Mm. Mhm.
yeah. So I was like, okay, all right. But here I am in the middle of it, and I love the people I'm serving, but I tilted into that overgiving space. And it that part doesn't feel good. Yeah. And why did that come about? There's a whole bunch of reasons, but shoot.
Well, I mean, it reminds me, you shared the story of like your house being open to anyone who wanted to come in. And it wasn't, it was your father's choice, right? He
And my
decided that this was
mother's.
the way.
They
It
were
was your parents'
unified in
choice.
that. The
Okay.
adults chose, yeah.
The adults chose this is the way we're going to do it, and you as a child, you didn't have a choice.
No.
So often we don't even, it's hard to pause and question the thing that has felt normal for so long. So now that you're at a point you're like you're recognizing it, you're pausing, that awareness is such an important part to just internalize. And it is a work in progress. And like I've become more and more comfortable with the fact that like I'm just learning as I go along, and that at the same time I know that I can learn. Like that is unshakable. That is unshakable. I can learn, I can change, I can grow, I can let go of what doesn't work and regain what does work. And sometimes when people come into this work and they start to do it with money, because money feels so black and white, because it feels like there's a right way and there's a wrong way, like a lot of that flexibility that we've learned in other parts of our lives kind of gets frozen in this area.
It's true. It's true. And I go through waves too. Yeah, I think, I mean, my desire is to make what I'm doing available to whoever would want it. That is a core desire. And I'm one person. I'm a solopreneur. I'm one artist healer. I do not have a team of people. Yeah, there will probably always be this tension of, and I work best in a really intimate space with just a handful of people. And I live in the most expensive city, one of them in the world, the most expensive city in this country. It's really a trick. We are working with almost irreconcilable circumstance and desire as artists and artist healers, doing our work, and I want to say beyond making a living, making a life, a full-fledged, multifaceted life where we get to have a private life and a public life of service, and relationships across the board, and to not fall into full burnout, which has happened to me multiple times. Yeah.
So I love that term, artist healer. When did you come to that term?
Yeah.
Like how do you embody it in yourself and in your work?
Yeah. I was aware of the archetype of the artist and the archetype of the healer before I started my career. And I was aware also of how they butt heads for me. And the truth is, I can't separate them for me. They are completely married, these two archetypes. But I learned in my mid to late 20s that my artist has to, even though I said they're completely mushed together, my artist has to take the lead, has to be a little given, she has to be given the, she has to lead. She has to be fed first. She has to lead and she has to be fed first. For me, if I let my healer lead, or if I feed her first, I get all out of whack. And so I'll define a little more what they are. Yeah, I see. Yeah. All
No,
out.
I totally see that. Yeah, because the healer, if she's, I mean, my healer is very much like come from a place of wounding, and like I want to help everybody else, and then I forget that I need to help myself. So that's very much like the shadow side of the healer. It's like I'm only worthy if I'm helping you. That shadow side is, oof.
Yeah,
she is a tricky one to be with.
It's a tricky one to be with. And I want to also honor that there are expressions of the healer, even that move through me, that that aren't that shadow side, but in my,
Definitely.
but I don't know, I want to say something that only a few of our listeners might know, but for those of you who do, on the Enneagram, do you know the Enneagram, Deanna?
I do.
I'm a 4. You're 2. Okay.
Yeah, you're definitely an artist.
Yeah.
Or leads in art.
Yes, yes, it is. It is. And actually, and I apologize to the folks that don't know the system, but you might want to go check it out. It's very cool. Yeah, when I'm leading, and I'll define the artist a little bit more with why I can't separate them is I'm going to back up. Healing for me, but actually this makes a lot of sense here. Healing for me is focusing on what we're creating rather than what we're fixing. The focus is on what we're creating, not ignoring what hurts and what's been painful until now, but acknowledging that, like not resisting it and not hiding from it, but like really bringing our full attention to how whatever's been painful, not judging it, not resisting it. And from that place of, it's a kind of equanimity of after we've raged, after we've felt the grief move all the way through, let all of that complete, feel it. And then from that place of, okay, not it's okay, but just because it's not okay, all of that pain and disease or relational hurt or not being seen, but pausing just with, okay, here's where we are. Now, what would we like? And that's where the artist comes in. What would we like? The artist checks in, what would feel better? Whether it's wearing shiny pink today or wearing purple or brown, I mean, the artist makes choices, doesn't have to be on the canvas. It's whatever expression is going to come through, whatever image, whatever texture, whatever smell, whatever taste, choosing it. I'm kind of losing my words, but
no, I mean,
yeah.
I love so when you talked about the healer, you said it's focusing on what you're creating, and then the artist comes in and says,
well, actually the artist says focusing. Oh no, you're right. No, you say it, because I think you're going to see it in a way that I'm struggling to.
Yeah, because usually for me as a healer, I do tend to focus on like, what are we fixing? What hurt needs to be fixed. And you're saying, as for you, when you look at the healer, you focus on what's being created. So having the artist really come in and guide the process, especially if you're an Enneagram 4, which is, I think it's like the artist Enneagram.
It is. It's the artist.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it's
called the romantic or the individualist, but yeah.
So I see that. No, this is, and how does that relate to money? So I mean, sometimes things don't relate to money, right? So sometimes money is just, and that's the way that I think of my work as a empowerment coach with money is that I love helping people figure out their money so that it's no longer the reason why they are or are not doing something. Instead, it's they are the ones that are choosing. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm not doing it because of the money. If that makes sense. I'm not doing it because it's cheaper or whatever it is.
Love that.
Instead, it's like, what do I want my life to look like? And again, I'm using myself as an example. It's like when I'm living in Latin America because it's cheaper, right? I'm starting out a business. Like you said, it's incredibly expensive. The US is incredibly expensive, but I also really want to. I also love living here. I also love that I went to and I had a coconut and I talked with a family and it was $2. And I love all of the flexibility that my life has because of this choice. So yes, I'm here because of the money, but I'm here because I love being here.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So for your, striking up in you.
What's that?
what was that? I feel like I interrupted you.
Yeah,
There,
yeah. No. There are nascent thoughts. There are thoughts here. I'm also trying on. I'm asking myself that same question of, am I doing just through my life, have I been doing things for the money, or have I been doing things in general because I wanted to do them? And more often than not, like you, it's the second. And it could be some creative mixture of the two, but even the first 10 years of my now 22-year career as I didn't know I was a showgirl shaman at the beginning, but that's what, yeah, it's been. It was rare that, I would do, at the first 10 years were mostly teaching and gigging. So I basically, I was teaching dance, and then I was choreographing and preparing hot pink feathers to perform at events and on the Carnival parade. And yeah, there were times where it was a little split the way, so would take a gig at, say, for entertainment for an event where I didn't care that much about what the event was, but I enjoyed bringing the dance. And it was, it was exciting to show up at someone else's party for their company or their family or whatever it was. And now I don't want to get dressed in the bathroom and wait for a long time to dance for 5 minutes. That's not, and someone would have to pay me quite a bit of money to have me even consider that now, because it doesn't sound as fun. It was really exhausting. It was fun for those few minutes, but it was also really, it was a whole lot of work. And now, yeah, no. Now my work has shifted. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to make it sound like there's a right way or a wrong way. Again, that dichotomy, it's like neither of them matters. It's like what works right now, right? Just like, is it okay for me to work when I'm on vacation? Who cares? It's my life. I don't need you to approve.
Yeah, that's massive. Yeah, that's really big. Yeah, that's
so as I was thinking about, I was looking forward to our conversation. One of the things that I think here I'm just enjoying getting to have a conversation with you, Kellita. So when I grew up, I had an eating disorder when I was a teenager, and like a ton of body dysmorphia, and I could never look at myself and accept who I was. And now here I am, 34, almost 35, for the first time in my life wearing a string bikini because I'm at the beach and because I felt like it, and because I don't want to have tan lines. And it's so strange how empowering it feels to have my body outside, like barely clothed, and not saying, oh, because my weight isn't very different. Like for the past 5 years, my weight has been steady, and I haven't been wearing burqas to the beach, but I've been wearing like very like conservative one piece because there was all kinds of things that were wrong with me. And now it's just like I don't like I want to celebrate it, and I don't even know who to celebrate it with.
Celebrate with me. No, it's big. It's really, really, really big. There's so many layers. I also had body dysmorphia and eating disorder in my teens, and bodies and our sense of self, and there's just nothing. I mean, how more personal could it get? How do you want to celebrate? Do you want to do a movement?
I mean, I feel like all of the time I spent at the beach was really great movement.
Okay.
What else could I do?
But I mean, now, do you want to just
Shimmy it out
a little?
I think more than anything, it's just like I wish I could go back and tell like 14-year-old me, like, you're okay.
You can. You can. You can tell her that. we're all our ages.
We're all our ages.
We're all our ages, and you can call her up, and you can tell her that.
Yeah. And it's yeah, and it's so much more about like me and me enjoying my time with me than it is about being appealing to anyone else. It's just a different way of being with my body.
You are at a very advanced level right now, Deanna. I hope you know. I don't know where you're going to go from here, but your relationship to work and money and your body is so
It's shifting, and honestly,
beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, and thank you.
Yeah, have that.
Well, I was gonna ask, so I'm going back to the interview questions, kind of shifting
Okay.
back into
All perfect.
mode. And one of the questions that I had, we already talked about, like an experience of undercharging and then making sure you were paid fairly later on. So thinking right now of the 15 hours of teaching that you're doing for free and the 10 days.
Yeah.
How are there any takeaways you're learning from how you'll do this differently next time, or like the things that you're learning about yourself?
Yeah. I think, I've played around. I find it's really, really important. And I learned this from Tad Hargrave of Marketing for Hippies. Wonderful, wonderful teacher, mentor, so authentic, so smart, and just can't recommend his work enough. And he talks about making it safe for people to learn about your work. Make it safe in all the ways that they don't have to spend too much time or money to have a sense, especially when you're doing, your own homegrown work, which I certainly am. Make it accessible. Like the truth is, I wouldn't even allow. The truth is, I don't even have, there's no payment button on my signature program, Burlesque from the Inside Out. I have to meet someone. They have to meet me. I have to meet them. And ideally, we'll be in an introductory workshop together. So they and I can feel how is it for us to be in this same intimate space? And both sort of, vet each other and filter in that way. Good marketing is filtering. If your marketing is good, you never have to sell anything, because it will naturally have shown both you and the person who's deciding if your work is for them. You'll both know if the marketing was done well. So rather than me only describing in words or, having testimonials from someone who's participated in a program, I have so many ways that someone can have a taste. And it's important that they do. And the best way is coming to a short workshop or a film screening or a combination thereof. So my introductory workshop being seen on your own terms, burlesque as a psycho-spiritual practice, that serves so much. And I most often have done it at a sliding scale. And I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to that. Because for this tour, it's just been like absolutely free. And that a little bit, I think sometimes also people sign up for things that are free and don't feel and don't come, and then don't come, and then, so to pay something. So I'm going to go back to having their, I'm almost sure I'm not going to have it be one fee, but probably three. So someone can choose which one fits for them. Because I do want that. That's the first step of meeting me, and the first step of having a live experience of the work. So that feels important. So that's one step. And also, the only way I would actually want to do a whole bunch of classes in a row, I was mimicking a tour. I've gone on tour before, but now because the tour is on Zoom, people can come from anywhere. And the idea of this tour was to be hosted by friends and colleagues. And I do have friends and colleagues hosting me for the majority of the tour, but I decided also to help promote. So that increased my work.
Oh,
I really just needed
okay.
to hand it off, let them do every part of promotion creation and be just hands off. I know I'm going kind of into high detail, but you asked me what I would do differently, and I'm
No,
right
no,
in
no,
the
no,
middle
no.
of
I
it. So
love
I'm
it.
really thinking specifically. The truth is, I already had 2 workshops scheduled, one for this last Monday and one for today. I should have just said to these beautiful friends and colleagues, would you help me spread the word for these 2 events that I'm already offering? Because it's all on Zoom. So instead, that would have been perfect. And then they would have helped me um, people those 2 events that I already am hosting. And instead I'm doing a bunch of, all these events. And yeah, do you see? And so
No, yeah.
there.
So it's kind
So
of
now
like
I know.
dividing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you know. And next time you do a tour, it'll be like these are people that are, that's we're learning, and we're doing things differently as
Yeah.
we learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to the sliding scale, I love having a sliding scale for my own work. So my main program is a 6-month program. And the first time I was introduced to a sliding scale, I was really happy to be able to pay at the income that I had at that time,
Yay.
because it felt like really supportive of the community. I was going to like a meditation place where they
Yeah.
had that experience of dana, which is like giving at your own income level, or giving generously. And now when I offer it, the idea is also, because it's also a way of doing social justice work, of taking care
Yeah.
of the community, taking
Yeah.
care of the facilitator. I love when I'm able to see that in more places, because we all have, just because the market values a programmer's skills one way doesn't mean, it's the numbers are so relative, they're so immaterial, right? And living in a place like San Francisco, I'm sure you get to see just how out of this world sometimes the prices are.
Yeah. It's so it's amazing that I'm still living here, given all the tech influxes of this area. And it's kind of crazy. But I do want to say that business model is really important. What I mean by this, I didn't even know what business model was until just a few years ago. I've been, this is not, I also just want to name, there's two poles for the entrepreneur. And we all fall somewhere on this range. And one is the artist entrepreneur, and the other is the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur looks to the world and says, what does the world need? I'm going to create that because I see this specific need. I'm going to fill it. The artist says, what am I called to share? And then they figure out how to connect it so that somebody in the world knows to reach for that, or that they want that. So I definitely come from the artist side. So I didn't learn about business. I didn't even, I've slowly, it's way been I was in business for 10 plus years before I even started to understand, wait, you this would be helpful. Like, so business model just means, how does money come in and out of your business, and what are your offerings, and how do they work together so that it makes sense for the people approaching you, and so that it makes sense for you as the business creator and owner, including on a financial level. So if the thing to be careful about with sliding scale is you have to set it up so that if everyone pays the lowest amount, you can still live.
Yes.
You have to think about that. Important to consider. Yeah, my signature program, it's so small. Depending on the format, it's between 5 or 8 people tops. That's it. And it's deep dive intensive. For that one, I offer extended payment plans if someone can't pay all at once. Yeah, I haven't, that sliding scale for that one, I haven't applied for that. I use it
Yeah.
for being seen on your own terms. It can work for that. But I haven't found a way that it makes sense for the other program. Yeah.
One of the things that I've seen done, and here I'm gonna call out Kelly Deals. I really like her work. Her last name is Dielels.
I've heard of her. Yeah.
Yeah. She talks a lot about being the culture makers. Like, we are the culture makers. We can make a different culture from the one that we have, is what I take away from her work.
Yeah.
And when she talks about slides, like, there are many ways to make things, to share things with many, many people without burning out, right? So it's like those free workshops that you give, that you record, and then people can watch again on their own. So they'll be able to get a taste of your work. They'll be able to work with you and without you burning out, because it's not in service to the community for you to be exhausted and to turn away from this work.
Snap. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can have like scholarship options, right? You can have, and one of the things that I offer, that I'm creating for my program, is that I'm making it possible for people to donate towards the scholarship fund.
Yes. I love that. That
There's
is a
so
piece.
much more creativity.
When there's another program that I'm not offering now, which called different names, but it's Mystery School is the latest name that it has. And that one, I have a strong vision for there to be three tuitions, and one is the regular, and one is the specifically someone who has more, we're speaking more of that, has more, and that extra amount is going towards scholarship, and that scholarship is reflected in other. So I have a vision for that one. I love that. How I have experienced is that scholarship just meant I wanted it to be easy for someone to come, and so I took it out of my own pocket, and that didn't work that much, because that led to burnout and me being depleted. So actually designing a system so that it is not just the isolated artist healer who is paying for it, that the scholarship is coming through a systemic piece of people working together. That is important. And the truth is, as I look at this website that I'm recreating now, it's so full of free resource. Someone could just read and watch everything there. And if they applied all of that, I mean, it's just, it's a big gift of what I have to share. And then realizing that if someone wants to work with me in real time in a small group, that is something that it even just, that's a valuable thing to pay for. Yeah, I know. And then looking back to how I started, that my time and my energy and my attention wasn't my own. So here now, to claim just how much of me and how to share, and to do that really consciously, it's still a learning edge. And it comes from the best intentions, but it's a learning edge for me.
And you're learning it from all the different ways around it. So it's really yours. You really get to own that edge. So the last question, if you could summarize your money relationship in 2 minutes or 1 minute, what would you say?
Oh. I think as I'm seeing it now, it's very much with images. It's not going to come out as I believe that. It's not going to come out like that. And it is a little more of a felt sense of what I'm moving into, which is, it's actually, I'll describe the picture. Almost like I'm seeing little bills of currency that are almost like they're animated. They're like little people. How can we support you? How can we support you? And they're kind of
Oh,
all around. Yeah. Yeah. And oh, look what I can do in the world. Yes, I can go do that for you. Yes, I can. Yes. Yes, I'll go there. So but money being of just a great service and feeling, and somehow in that image, I felt very sort of calm and alive and creative, and the money was this almost like just an agent of relationship. Ooh,
mm,
an agent of support and relationship, which is, yeah, I don't think it's all I have not always experienced that way, nor do I see it treated that way, but in this vision. So I'm kind of claiming the vision that's coming is that money as a vehicle of support and relationship for me and those who I'm interacting with. May it be so.
yes, I see that. I see that. And
Do you?
it's, yeah, a supporting relationship, because again, reminding you of my first experience with Adana with the sliding scale, it felt really good to give more because of where my
Yeah.
income was at the time. It
Yeah.
felt good.
I love that.
Giving and receiving are both things that we don't like. Our world can be so transactional that we
Yeah.
don't linger enough, and how good it feels to share and how good it feels to receive.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that, because I've had just over the last week this really strong sense of I have a lot to give and I need a lot.
You do.
So I think there is a little bit in our, and when I say our culture, I really kind of mean the globe, because with the internet and the way it is, we have a global culture, or a global anti-culture, as it actually is, because whatever culture is doesn't seem like humans are practicing anywhere. But
Mhm.
whatever this weird thing is, how we're treating each other as humans, it seems to now be happening all over. And I got a little lost in that. But no, but I have a desire. Oh, yeah, we tend to compartmentalize. Here I am, this little person, just want to take care of me and just figure out my stuff and make it just work for me. No, 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 no. I want the thing that I've, this is a strong word, but I feel like I've failed at it so many times, like out of wanting to be generous in a way, but not making sure that there was reciprocity. That's it. I
Reciprocity.
wasn't making
Oh
sure.
my
I was like,
God.
oh, wanting the reciprocity and the mutuality. So and I also did this in romantic relationships. I would kept giving when nothing was coming back. And then I've done that sometimes in my work life, where I kept giving when the reciprocity wasn't there. And in work, it's often reciprocity. One main aspect is that money is coming. Yeah.
Right, right.
Appreciation and goodwill, but also money.
Mhm.
So, and when I say giving and receiving, I don't just mean money, but I mean money included. I love to give to the artist healers that I work with, and the coaches and the helpers, and I love paying them. Love it. So I want to give a lot and receive a lot. I don't want to minimize my needs. A big part of my work is helping. I realized I haven't talked much about what I do. We're not going to go there now, but if you've enjoyed this conversation, check out showgirlawakening.com, showgirlawakening.com. I'm sorry you can't check them out my Instagram right now, but do check out the website, especially I think after next week. Hopefully the new one will be
Yeah.
there. The new one will be there. And I have really unusual, beautiful work. And
Although maybe we haven't talked about what you do, I think people have seen what you do. Right?
how?
You've demonstrated here. I mean, just
Oh, I
even with like
demonstrated.
you've demonstrated here the work that you do and the way that you hold space and the way that you
Okay.
think and the way that you
Okay.
it
Okay.
it's people can sense that. I know I
Okay.
sense it very deeply. The way that you shared so generously of your story, again, in that 9-part Instagram series that they can now find on your website.
Well, on the new one, you'll
On
know
the
if
new
it's
one.
new because it's very colorful. My old website is not very colorful. It kind of has a rose gold, but the new one is full of color, all the colors. Like Deanna,
All the
your
colors,
business name is
yes,
all the
yes.
colors. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I love this for you. I'm so excited to hear you owning that edge of like learning how to have money in a way that's supportive for you and generous with your community. So like you practice generosity a lot.
Wholehearted
Wow.
generosity. Yeah, the
Yes.
wholehearted, yeah. The giving from the cup that is full.
Yeah.
Giving from the cup that is full. Shazam.
And then we'll end on that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for your
Yeah.
time, Kellita.
Thank you, Deanna.